2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff. And all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and the Bean universe. Lesbo and the Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and the Bean.
This episode of Lesbo and the Bean is brought to you by Lather & Co. That's latherandcompany.com for all your bath and body needs.
This is an exclusive for Lesbo and the Bean. Remember to type in LATB, LATB 15 for 15% off. Any purchases over $25 will give you free shipping. US domestic for now. Wait till later.
That's a really good deal for Lesbo and the Bean. So once again, that's latherandcompany.com for all your organic, cruelty-free bath and body needs. And on to the show.
Welcome back. Episode 186. We got another fight card on the weekend coming out of Kansas. But before we get to that, there's been a whole lot of talk. I guess the same old people in the news. How have you been since you last met? What has come about in the MMA verse?
Ben Askren, Robbie Lawler seems to be a hot topic this week.
Feel like that was already squashed, was it not, pretty much, by Ben? And Dana said, we talked, yeah, we chatted about
well,
it
it's just been a hot topic on whether or not it was still the right call to make. And a lot of people I've seen have said it was the right call. They were like, is Herb Dean that good? Which this is, I give Herb Dean fucking hate, so I don't know. What's the next step for Robbie Lawler once his arm, whether it was a blood choke or not, you can come back that quick if it's a blood choke, like the same way you do that up against the wall when you're in like a kid. They say you can remember right where you were, like, oh shit, like if it doesn't hit all the way. And I was listening to one of the guys on the MMA fighting. He was saying when you have it, and you're down like that, you usually, your fingertips tingle, and then your hands, and then your arms, and then it feels in your chest, and then you can still hear everything going on, you just can't see or do anything. And that if your brain regains consciousness quick enough, you just it's like you don't even skip a beat. So the only one that can ever know of whether he was out is Robbie, one. But two, what was next for him in that fight? What was the next action that he was about to take if his arm just went limp and he was like...
I think backing out straight in or even sitting in a chair into the position will help just wedge your head out.
But I just mean how tight that grip is, like for Ben Askren. He always says he has one of the tightest...
Yeah, and you've seen those watermelons.
I know the double...
No watermelon stands a chance around Ben Askren. I still think it was a wrong call, and you can just see it, Herb Dean. He says so himself. He goes, your arm. Immediately after, I've watched it in slow motion, just watch Herb. He even tells Robbie when he gets up and he's like, your arm, limp. And then he goes, fuck. Herb shakes his head and is just
I remember the moment.
He totally...
I just mean, instinctively, every single person in the room that we were watching it with even was bitching that it was almost late on Herb Dean, that he wasn't calling it, and because of the limp arm. And for the same instincts that every other person did that, the referee's only one person too. Like, everybody instinctively was like, that person's in trouble. Our instincts told us that person was in trouble. And we've also seen guys thumbs up, and then his arm goes kind of limp right afterward. And for his argument was, I couldn't hear Herb Dean. Then why did you thumbs him up when he asked how you were doing?
Because he touched his arm as it went limp. And he touched his arm and he put his thumb up, but he called the fight off as the thumb was going up.
But this is what I think. Either way, I don't remember where I heard it because I would give someone credit. Afterward, I think we should open it up. It might have even been John. I don't know who it was. Afterward, the press conference should have that ref there. So the media can start talking to these refs. And them speaking up and us hearing what they say would also legitimize if it was a bad call over human error, over whatever. And the guys that were there a lot would be the guys we got rid of. And I just think maybe it would set precedents and maybe make them hold accountable a little to the press, or at least give their side of the story right away. Totally. So we could hear it the same way as the fighters, or, maybe the fighters would even have a question. I just don't think it's a bad idea.
We have had a few refs talk about a few things on podcasts, and I feel like it's one of those unspoken secrets that everyone knows, that the commissions don't like refs doing it. And even some of the few commission or former commission guys have talked and now been chastised for allowing people to know what happens in that type of... They try to keep it really dark and hush-hush amongst themselves. So I do feel like there's an active suppression by the commission not to let the refs explain it. And they will let the rulings, because this is immediately going to be... cited by Ben or by Robbie. They're gonna go to whatever commission, and the commission usually turns these down. They usually side with the reference on the call. They usually do, and
I will agree with you. In my personal opinion, I don't know what Robbie was gonna do. I felt like it was a tight choke, and the next thing was he was gonna be out. But I want to see him be out. So I agree with you. It was a bad call. Yep. I did think. Then, at the time, I'll give Herb Dean credit, because I'm the queen of being like, he is the worst. And I don't think he's the worst, but he's up there. But that, instinctively, everybody said, oh my God, we would have called it too. But I'm not a referee in the UFC. He's seen it a lot more, and maybe he's seen too much. Because it's making him start to...
pull the trigger a little quick.
Yes.
Little premature refereeing.
Yeah.
I definitely remember real time as well when that arm went limp. I watched that because I immediately, when people get in trouble, I start to look for that limp body, because that tells you it's out. And that arm told it to me. I remember yelling, he's out, he's out, he's out. Calls it off. He gets up and I was like, oh, he wasn't out. Like, I was just as confused real time as everyone in the room.
I feel like I've seen people in the UFC get up quick. And I don't have any matches off the top of my head to give an example, but I'll think about it as it goes on, where they were like, I'm there. TJ.
I'll say the exact same fight. Right now, Ben Askren was limp for 2 punches. Robbie Lawler woke
I rewatched
up.
That.
Ben...
I don't think so. I think he felt really weird in the... No,
I don't think it was a spike. I think it was a first uppercut that he didn't see coming.
I think he ate shit. Like, that whole sequence is bad, and I actually commend Herb Dean that he let that go on, because it's the best of the best. They can take punches in there. It is what it is. For the same reason that... Like, for people that have said, like, TJ Dillashaw. The TJ Dillashaw versus Cejudo. Same thing. He got up so quick. I think knockouts happen sometimes like that, where you're like, that guy wasn't even out. He totally covered himself. We've watched it in slow motion. Blah, 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 blah. But so many times looking at the knockout when it's like that, I've been like, that's the right call. Like, it's kind of that same split second where it was like, that guy, he got rocked a few times. Have you seen Johnny Walker's, not him knocking out, but him getting knocked out?
Yeah, 4 times in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching that tape before he came into the UFC, and I was like, I can't bet on this guy if that happens to him. Like, he's got some CT.
It was that same knee.
Yeah.
That same, I don't know.
Well, he was trying to set up, and he ate a right hand straight to the chin.
I also... Going back to the whole event, why couldn't we use the tape and go back into that fight at this level with these guys?
I agree.
I don't think that should be a no contest. I don't think it should be anything. I think we reset the guys in a position of like a lower wrestling stance, not full headlock, but you have to still give the guy and I think you go back to fight.
Imagine this. I just totally think, and I don't know, total recall in here, but you have not only the referee have a live feed in a camera, he also has the booth in his ear and is able to say, ho, hey booth, show me that. Watch it on live screen and then make the call and keep the fight proceeding. That is as interactive as it gets. Football does it in seconds.
Yeah, I don't want them to have anything in their ear but the fight, but I think they can still have a hand sign like football where they're like refs or whatever they do.
Where they're like, hey, show me the last 10 seconds. Mike shows it, they show it, and then he gets to make a real-time judgment.
Period. Why can't we have them face the music at the end of the fights just the same way as the fighters?
Do the refs in football? Do the refs in basketball?
I don't know. I don't
I
care.
don't know either.
That's
a genuine
I'm
question.
tired of comparing us to them because we're not them. Like, I'm tired of it with, like, our athletes don't make the same, but you know what I'll tell you? Our referees, different than other referees, have podcasts, have t-shirts, have making money as personalities, being famous. So if you want to do that, cool. Face the music. Sit down in front of them. And enough bad call. I want to hear why they made the calls they made. Either way. I think it would be an interesting.
I would listen 100%. 100%. Teddy Atlas, by the way, podcast I did fall into a little bit. He does it about once a week. Teddy Atlas's podcast. He used to train Tyson back in the day. Worked with Cus D'Amato from back in the day, and just one of the voices who's always called boxing corrupt for years. I really like him. He's very in your face, but brain, a whiz. In the combat sports, I wouldn't recommend him for boxing or MMA. I just say like general tactician in there. It'll bring up your game all the way around if you need a podcast to listen to sway from some of these bad refs.
Bad calls, maybe.
Bad calls sometimes. But what else has been going on? What other signings do we have?
Now looking back at the whole thing that we just saw happen with Usman and Woodley, maybe Colby would have beat Woodley.
Totally would have seen that. Could have seen that coming. And
I wouldn't have. At all. I would have thought Woodley handled that all day. But
did I say in the breakdown that Woodley has too many things going on? I feel like that was one of my points as well with Usman. And now T. Woods is saying, I have so much going on. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And you're trying to be a world champ. Usman, all he does is live at the gym. You are trying to wrap it up here, trying to be Mr. LL Cool J up in here.
Yeah, right away. Right? Yeah, I don't even know if he fights again afterward.
I totally agree with that.
I think he has enough connections and maybe even enough stuff on the horizon. And I also have to say, homie, you don't have to fight anymore. Like, you have a great legacy. You could just leave as a really good guy. Just say, damn, if I'm going to lose to a guy, I'm glad it was Usman. He's a noble guy.
Yep.
Good. I hope Africa gets a first fight card. And I'd like to do my last fight on the African fight card. Call me when that is so I can retire. And then head off into the sunset.
I agree. Did you happen to see the backstage footage of Kamaru Usman meeting T. Wood's mother?
No.
Oh, it's touching. I'm not crying. You're crying. It is adorable and sweet. He's just kind of like, I'm sorry I beat him. And she's just like, it's, and he's crying. Kamaru Usman's crying, and T. Wood's mom is just like, it's okay, baby. It's on you now. You take it. You got the juice, Grandma. You got the juice. Like, take it.
Everybody backstage. Do you want to see Askren Lawler again?
Honestly, no. I do not.
It sucks for Robbie, but I really want to. But you know what? How about Robbie Masvidal, and then we can watch. I want to watch Till. I don't care if Till wins or loses. I want to watch him versus Askren.
From what I saw and everything I gathered from Askren, I think he only really has 1 or 2 fights. GSP might be one of those only fights. But I don't think he has a long career in the UFC by any means whatsoever. And if anyone has taken it more even-headed than anybody, it is Robbie Lawler. He said, what the fuck, Herb Dean? And then was like, oh man, it's good. And has never looked back since. Have you heard any? He's just like, yeah, you know what happens? It sucks, whatever. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep doing it. He's just totally like, okay.
Because maybe deep down he knows that he's
He's out. Ooh. That be conspiracy.
Yeah, I don't want to see him fight again. And I don't think GSP is going to fight Askren. I think it's GSP Khabib. There's no reason for him to fight Askren, not after that performance.
Those USADA claims you've been making are seeming so much more on point than a lot of people initially were thinking.
I don't even need. I've said enough about GSP and all that. Like you can listen back to shows. Yeah, something there. It's just interesting that other people made the announcement too. Like, oh, right. He's officially out of USADA, and USADA's just like, oh, all he has to do is give us 6 months notice before he comes back.
Easy. That's easy.
Easy part cheesy.
And you can pulse nowadays.
And did you hear, speaking of USADA, that there's another, like a 155er that's going on with the same things as John Jones, where he's having picograms show up?
I have not specifically heard of the case, but what baffles me is how we don't have everybody else who's ever popped re-popping. Because we've had other guys already come back and not popped again on any test. Why only John Jones? So it's either the floodgates are open or they're not. Like, what's going on? I've always thought that was a bit peculiar because there's a lot of other guys other than John Jones.
Who do you think the 155er is that the rumors about?
We have one coming up this weekend that I could be, and that would be in the Grant Dawson, I mean. He won his Contender Series fight and has been out for about a year and a half due to him popping. He is in the 145.
Not big enough.
40?
There's something that, in my opinion, that the UFC is keeping secret, like a Conor or a Cowboy.
Oh, you mean that high a level? Okay.
Yeah.
I just think
if they're just talking about a 155er, we won't hear about that. I think
Sure.
we're gonna hear, like, if it's somebody that the UFC is keeping hush hush. I think it's
Tony.
No, he doesn't seem like even his body.
His leg was open. He just had one of the worst scars I ever seen.
Yeah, I've had shit surgeries without steroids.
Good point.
And he still, I don't know if he was getting tested. He has his little test thing up of recent.
Right. Oh, he does. I did actually see that little sticker.
If I'm Tony, my new name I start going with, greatest interim champion of all time.
I like that. I totally like
I just
that.
start running with it, because what the fuck, interim champs?
Tony Ferguson is the type of guy to be the greatest interim champ of all time.
He is. Maybe that's the LaTB. That's our t-shirt. The
That's
greatest
a good
interim
one.
champ of all time with Tony Ferguson on the back.
Undefeated interim champ
Yeah.
as an interim.
Yeah, you're right. And people will be like, that cable. That's so funny.
Yep. Le casual.
That's what it would say here. Like a bowling shirt, it would say "Lay Casual," and then on the back, it would have a picture of El Kukui with greatest interim champ of all time.
We got UFC Fort Lauderdale that might have to have those come out before then. That's hopefully on the way soon enough.
That's a good
at the
idea
end
with
of
the
April.
LaTB logo right over "Lay Casual." Like,
Definitely.
You know. Maybe even, what about something on it that looked like a pocket protector with pins in it? Like printed on it, and then it was like "Lay Casual."
That's fun.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I would definitely wear that with pride.
Put funny things in it instead of just pins and...
Last year, Lesbo and the Bean was in Orlando. The Bean wearing Trust Usman shirt. I'm just saying, I'm seeing pictures of myself and I'm like, oh, it was a year ago that we were saying this was going to happen. Funny how it's come full circle.
Full lick. But you know what? You deserve it for sticking there. And I nerved out. Whole time.
Like casual.
Yeah. The whole time until the last fight. It just... I've been a Woodley fan too. He's one of those fighters. I tend to like the fighters everyone hates, like TJ, Woodley.
Colby.
I don't hate Colby, but
that's better than most people.
Yeah,
that's a lot better than most people.
But I see the shtick.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I see the shtick.
Totally agree. If you don't see the stick, then you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself because it's a gimmick.
I know, like Ali Abdelaziz jumping over railings at a salad bar over pregnant ladies to get to
and the mom and the lobster. We didn't even talk about the lobster buffet brawl. Ali hitting a fan in the face, slowed down. I mean, it's the bodyguards are more fighting than it's patrons just trying to break that up.
Oh, I wish Ali hit me in the face once.
You telling me? You're telling me?
I wish I was sitting at a salad bar. I'd be in Vegas.
I'd be like, oh, who hit me? Oh, my eye! I'm missing an eye!
I would just fall.
Yeah, exactly,
fall
on the ground.
And dead drop.
Then I'd curly your moe. Oh, my eye! In a circle, just keep running.
Because you know there's cameras in every inch of Vegas hotels.
Colby officially banned from, is it New York, or what? The Palms? Which resort? The Palms. He's for life.
Well, the Fertittas own the Palms?
Yes.
Weird. Because also one of the Real Housewives of the OG Real Housewives of Beverly Hills owned like 25% of the Palms, her family. So maybe with the Fertittas, or maybe she's a Fertitta. I don't know.
It didn't help that Colby came out and kept talking shit about the Fertittas as soon as he got on air, because now he's but whatever. There's enough other casinos. he's in the kayfabe, like, any heat's good heat. As long as we're talking about him, he's somehow figuring out a way to make money. Good for him.
Yeah, and he's the most over Usman's freaking perfect performance over a monster, not just over somebody, over a monster. Everyone's talking about Colby Moore.
Here we are, LaTB, having a takeover. Anything else that we haven't touched on before we get into this Kansas City delight?
Kansas City, UFC Kansas City. Is it a normal time card and everything?
It is a normal time card. It's going to be on ESPN Plus, but also if you're over, check your local subscribers. I know Sky Sports and BT2 usually are playing TSN in Canada, but check for your local listings. It's going to be a fun 12-card bout. We're going to have it headlined by the big boys at 265 pounds, but you know how we do here at LaTB. We always start from the bottom all the way to the top, and it goes off with Alex White versus Dan Moret. Both of these fighters have had fights at 45 and 155. Moret coming off of his debut in the UFC, losing RFA champ. He lost short notice to Gilbert Burns as of 10 months ago, and he was just outclassed. The reason he got in the UFC was because he took a short notice fight, and now he's getting a much more apt opponent in the 12-5 Alex White, whose biggest claim to fame is living through drinking gasoline. I feel like I have to say it every single time, but that's what he survived as a child, and now as a professional fighter, coming off of a 2-fight losing streak to Jim Miller 5 months ago submission. Prior to that, losing to James Krause. He does have a win over Mitch Clark and has been over at Team Destruction for a while. Moret's coming out of the MMA lab. Moret really likes to get these fights up against the cage, down to the ground, and do work from on top. Not really a big submission guy, more ground and pound. Not tons of power in his striking, but he's more of a 1-2, throws a jab, straight right, and then he'll not kick with it, but kick separately, just singularly. So the striking for Moret is definitely not the best. Alex White, though, is definitely a boxer, throws a piston of a left hand down the middle. His takedown defense was his biggest weakness, as well as his cardio, and he has stepped up in that. But still, once you get White to the ground, he does have deficiencies in his ground game. Jim Miller was able to exploit that, but that's also a 45-plus fighter who's been a top 10, where Moret isn't there on the ground. So I see this being a fairly dicey fight. We got Alex White being a heavy favorite here, and even though I'm siding with White decision because I feel like he keeps this fight striking and ends up winning a decision, if there's a knockout, I see White getting it, but I am definitely not liking the minus 185. Think it should be closer than that. I got White decision right now. Could see finish. Moret, I'm still iffy on. He had a rough showing the first time around, and this is a much more capable fight that he has of winning. Who do you have in this fight, and why?
Gilbert Burns has looked hot the last few times out, and I'm going to give Dan Moret a little credit here. I haven't liked the way Alex White looked, and getting submitted by Jim Miller wasn't great to me. Jim Miller fights every other week or something, and he's 107 years old. He shouldn't probably be in the UFC anymore, and I'm not taking away anything from Jim Miller. He is a road dog, but Alex White, I wanted to get all high on him and lump him into this category of like James Vick and who's that kid, Dan Hooker. I wanted to put these like normal white guys that don't really have anything super outstanding anywhere, but they're kind of well-rounded, and I just wanted to lump them all together and move them forward, and especially against guys like Jim Miller. I just don't feel that way about him anymore. I'm sure he went in there and advanced so much stuff or hopefully specialize somewhere, but I just don't see it. I think Dan Moret does have a better ground game, and I could see Alex White getting submitted, I think, in the end of round 2, but you know what? This is the first fight of the night. You know what I do with that? Stay the fuck away. This should, this could be really close. It could be over quick. It could be boring. It could be exciting. I really don't know what to expect out of it, and so I'm just going to watch it, and I'll pick Moret right now.
So, Alex White on DraftKings is 8,600 against the 7,600 for Dan Moret. Are you going to be playing Moret anywhere as we stay away
Exactly.
here at LaTB. That's probably the best call because, again, it's a little inflated here as far as the price goes. There is avenues for Moret, so I don't think you're totally off the wall there. Moving on to the 170-pounders, we have Alex Morono versus Zach Otto. Both of these fighters have multiple fights in the UFC at 170 pounds. 17-6. Otto is coming off of a win, beating Dwight Grant in a split decision. Prior to that, Otto has a win over Mike Pyle, but has also lost to Sage Northcutt and Wei Jing Liang in there. Otto tends to be a jack of all trades, master of none. Has, I want to say, surface above gas tank, but the reason that freaking Northcutt got him was because he gassed out. And it looks like he resolved that in the split decision against Grant, but Grant also gassed in that fight. So I don't necessarily know if Otto's gas tank shakes out. He likes to usually get to the wrestling. Striking, he's serviceable, doesn't move his head specifically well off the line, but really likes to get you to the ground and just position you, get the win. He's a decision fighter. And against Alex Morono, who's 15-5, coming off of a win as well, he is just beat Ki Gong Song in a decision. Coming out of Texas, he's a Gracie Baja fighter. Has a win over Berkman, but has lost to Jordan Mean and Nakamura via split decision. Morono likes to keep it boxing. Has a good sprawl, a great gas tank, tough as nails. He really reminds me of who's the fighter who just got in he reminds me of a Barbarina. I always feel like I mix these two guys up in their fight styles. Morono has a bit better head, maybe not necessarily better head movement, because I have seen him be completely eat the biggest shots and keep moving forward, just throwing punch combinations, and he relies on his chin. Eventually, that's going to really run into problems against big hitters, but Otto doesn't have that type of power. Otto really throws a hard right overhand to go for that double leg takedown, or he'll just patter shots, but he doesn't really commit as much. He goes to the wrestling end. Morono can hold his own, and I think if Otto gasses, which he usually does towards the end of that second round, Morono can take it in the third, if not win. It's all going to be up to the first round. I see a dirty split coming potentially, but I am going to side with Morono. He's a big favorite here, but he should have more check marks, gas tank being one of those biggest checks. Who do you have in this fight and why?
I agree, and I actually think the lines are okay. Usually with heavy favorites like this, I always think they're off, but this time I think Alex Morono should be the favorite. That double leg takedown that you're talking about for Otto going in, that could get him submitted with a guy that's like Alex Morono. And he doesn't have a ton of power, but Otto doesn't have a ton of chin, so this is actually a finish for me too. I think Morono can get it done in the third round and just go out there with that little bit of cardio and it be a technical knockout more so than an out clean knockout, but Zach Otto just turtling up and calling it a day in the third, collecting his check and going home. So Morono in the third. I don't know how confident I feel about it. This is a weird night of fights for me so far.
Totally
and it's only 2 fights in. I don't know, but I don't feel that confident about it either way. I'm going to stay away from that fight probably.
Alex Morono, 9,100 on DraftKings against Otto, 7,100. I totally see it as well. DraftKings, even though it's 9-1, the person that's more likely to pay out there is Morono. I don't see a finish for Otto, even though it's 7-1. I don't think he scores necessarily high with an average of 48 average points in the UFC. He's had multiple fights, over 5, I believe, for Otto. So on to the 35ers, we have returning Luis Smoka versus Matt Schnell. This is definitely an interesting fight for me at 135 pounds because I was a big hype train on Smoka when he first came in at that 125, 150, was it 115 even for a while? But
I don't know. I remember that, but it wasn't on air. They never knew.
Really?
I don't think you ever...
We weren't talking about it? It was that long ago
Yeah.
now? That's nuts. How time flies.
I know.
How we've seen... I'm like, oh, he's a baby. He came in back with Max Holloway back then. Then was released because he lost a couple fights in a row. Went on a 3-fight winning streak. Luis Smoka came back into the UFC and just submitted 3 months ago C. Mujari. And he schooled on him. He got like 134 points on DraftKings, took him down at will, pass control. Luis Smoka is a ground specialist. He's one of these guys that on the ground for anybody is tough. I think he had over 100 points in a loss against like Tim Elliott because they reversed each other so much in an entire fight. Luis Smolka is just dangerous. Top, bottom, side, on his head, it doesn't matter. His striking's gotten better. I really like Luis's jab, but the thing I don't like is he'll sometimes get loose with that jab and not put his right hand up and start to get countered. Now that he's moved away, got away from the UFC and grown a little bit, I know as a person he grew a little bit. We always talk about his alcohol issues, his gassing issues, and he says he's really turned around since having a child. And we saw it in his last performance. I feel like him leaving the UFC and sticking into it shows that he wants to be here. And he has all the skills to make a title run. I'm still high on Luis Smolka, especially after he got his head right. I think he's definitely going to be a tough match for anybody in the division. But Matt Schnell being 12-4, coming off a 2-fight winning streak, he beat Marco Antonio Beltran a year, 4 months ago. And then as of late is coming off of a win to Inoue in a split decision. Schnell was an underdog there and used his wrestling in reverse to keep the fight where he wanted it, where his boxing was on point there. Throws 3-4 punch combinations together. Great gas tank. Uses when Schnell gets on the ground, he usually likes to be the wrestler and stay on top. And against Smolka, I think Schnell is going to try to emulate the same fight that he had before, where he wants to keep it striking. But here, I feel like Smolka is equivalent to Schnell. He's more of a tie striker instead of just a clean boxer. So I just feel like Smolka has more rivets in his game. The gas tanks are going to be about even here. I have this being a fight of the night potential. I see it as a coin flip, but I might be being a little biased here because I've loved what I've seen ever since he came into the sport. I got Luis Smolka submission round number 2. I think it gets dirty. This is much watch TV for me. Fun one coming up ahead. Who do you have in this fight?
Do you think it helps or hurts Snell that he's moving up in weight?
I think it helps him.
I'm looking back at the last Brandon Moreno, the guillotine choke, and then Ray Borg, and then Tim Elliott. Yeah, he was, and he probably did become a little bit of a head case, Smolka. That's when he went on his little losing streak. And then to be able to get wins behind him again and come back with the clear head, the right skills. I like Snell. His competition hasn't even been near the competition. He was in the Tough House, though.
Yeah, he fought Tim Elliott as well. But he lost fairly decidedly by a submission. He also had, who else? Rob Font, he lost to TKO, and Hector Sandoval TKO. So he's come back off of a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC.
Yeah.
But
Beltran isn't an easy, it's not just a walkthrough, but an Inoue.
But Snell didn't show anything in those wins. He got the wins, there were decisions, but it was like, oh yeah, what did he really do in there? Watching tape, it was even just like, okay.
You know another thing that makes me nervous about Smolka?
What's that?
Is whether or not he has a nutritionist, because you want to know, one of those guys that looks like Walking Dead walking around at weight? Smolka, but maybe he's moved up since the time remember that.
Yeah, he moved up to 35.
I don't know if this should... Oh, it says near even odds, even though it's heavy favorited on Tapology.com. I'm going to go with Smolka submission. He's not even really the taller guy. I just think... I don't even know where he's training. American Top Team usually puts really good game plans together.
Timo Yamas, Carlos Barza, and that crew of people, Herring, they got a lot of really lower weight.
Yeah, they have not been on a tear at all. I feel like their team's been on a losing streak. This maybe should be near even odds.
I totally
favorite. I see that Snell could be the favorite. I have never been on the Smolka bandwagon, or I've never really gotten to see him show out. And the guys that he beat are so low level. If Snell knows to stay clear of that submission, he may have better hands, in my opinion. I think you're right. This could be a fight of the night. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. I don't even want to make a bet, but I have to pick something contrarian to go with Schnell. Smolka. I like that he's been back. It was hot, but I don't even know who he was going against last time. I think Snell is the rightful favorite here. I think he can eke out a decision. I also think Smolka is one of those guys that kind of like a Charles Oliveira. If he can't get it, he just turns to he just totally unravels in there. Maybe that's together. Maybe everything you just said, contrary to that. But yeah, Snell decision. I don't feel confident about it. I'm really going to enjoy watching that fight.
It's a great fight. Near even odds. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,300 for Smoka against $7,900 for Schnell. I honestly am going to be putting like 70% Smoka on my cards. I feel like he has a higher ceiling as far as DraftKings is concerned.
Yeah, I do like everything you said about points. That's really of interest to me, regardless of what way it goes. I don't see him getting knocked out quick, and I like everything you're saying about points, that I could see myself putting him the weird dog or pass kind of.
For Snell?
Yeah, like if he's the favorite right now,
right.
Go put Smoka. He's definitely worth more points, right?
Yeah.
Even on a loss?
On a loss, he usually can still rack up a good amount of points, but yeah. I definitely like that play as far as my DraftKings night goes. Then we go to the 265-pounders where we have Mr. Green, Maurice Green himself, against debuting Jeff Hughes. Jeff Hughes being 10-1. Jeff Hughes being Stipe Miocic's number one training partner. He's the guy who can credit the champ, or former champ can credit with getting him that title run. He won his fight 7 months ago against Josh Affet on the Contender Series, but we've really seen those guys off of that Contender Series. The ones that are losing are not necessarily UFC caliber fighters, hence they don't win their fights. But Hughes, former wrestler, the reason that this line has been set, even though that Maurice was on the Ultimate Fighter, lost his fight, but have come back and won his fight in the UFC against Batista, is because this fight happened about a year ago, and Hughes won a 5-round decision over Maurice Green. I forget the organization, if it was RFA or LFA, but this fight already happened literally 1 year ago, and it turned out to be a wrestling grinding session where Jeff Hughes got on Maurice Green and just kept using the takedowns to exploit the lack of wrestling in the kickboxers. Definitely where he wants to keep it striking, pushed him up against the fence, and then on the ground could not get back up, and they fought for 25 minutes. Neither of them quit, but that is really telling us, or we've seen a lot of other fights, the T. Wood Thompson fight, where when they go 25 minutes, you don't see a brand new guy come in there. All of a sudden, they just kind of pick up where the fight left off a lot of the time in that 30th minute and later. So this isn't a 5-rounder. They don't have to worry about that as much, but Mr. Green likes to keep it striking in there. His sprawl's gotten better, but that Batista wrestler guy, you can't put tons of stock in that. That guy is a 50-year-old Cuban who is definitely way past his prime. This is a way better competition level. And Maurice Smith also has the same issues that Smoka did. Big drinker, it's talked about it openly, is a young guy, and is still going to be battling with that. So it's really hard to tell if he's had a solid training camp before, where we know where Hughes has Miocic in his corner and they're getting ready for this fight, especially with the win already in their back pocket. Could turn into a big wrestling match. I definitely see that being really viable. Like I was saying, it just goes into that 30th minute mark. But I also want to say that with the exposure that Maurice Green has had coming off the Contender Series, and then having coaches, every series, coaches say, hey dude, do you want to come train with me? I think I got people that'll work with you well. Maurice Smith has that, or Maurice Green has that, I feel like. So if there's going to be big jumps in somebody's game right now, I see Mr. Green. So I got a humongous underdog. Give me Maurice Green. Knockout.
Whoa.
Round number 1.
Wow. I actually think this will be the third time this fight's been done, and the second time it was done was called Stipe versus Ngannou, and I think this is going to go very similar to that. I think Hughes is going to drag Mr. Green into deep waters, having to avoid that hard punch for the first 60 seconds of the fight, but once he gets him down, he's going to wear out his energy so much he's not going to be able to swing those big knockout power, and so it'll be easier for him to get takedowns. The longer the fight goes, the more takedowns there's going to be. I think by round 3 he's going to have 4 takedowns, 5 takedowns in the round. I think there's going to be a lot of points there for Jeff Hughes, and I actually like him here. Maurice Green's a scary, scary guy. I just think it's a very similar game plan, and this is what their team kind of does.
Very true. Very, very good point. I feel like last time you were one of the few people, because I had Maurice Green knockout over Batista. You had submission because you're like, That's what this guy does. Do you think that plays a factor here against the wrestler in Hughes?
I am almost straying away from I think BJJ is great. I think it's amazing. And I think every single discipline has something that beats it. And BJJ's is wrestling. It just is what it is. That's why Tony Ferguson is so deadly. When you take those guys and mix wrestling with the BJJ, that's where it just gets next level. Like where they can do things that other guys can't, and you see them fight just as hard off their back because they're used to different leverages, I don't know.
You think you have a point.
Yeah, I like Hughes here. I think their team's hungry. I think their team needs a win. I think Ohio needs a win. I don't hate Mr. Green going forward, though. He's just a big, huge, threatening, scary guy. And if he wins by knockout round 1, his name's going to just shoot up to, like, right up there in these top guys that everyone's like, let's see him fight Derrick Lewis. Let's see him fight. Yeah, it's all of a sudden going to get choo.
100%. So the debuting Hughes is 9,300 on DraftKings against Maurice Green, 6,900. I'm going to see myself getting some Mr. Green in my lineup. But this is the type of situation, even as you're saying on DraftKings, where if Maurice Green does lose, it's going to be like 5 points that he gets.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely brutal. But if he wins by knockout, I mean, he's going to get...
He might be worth a card or two.
I'm going to put...
How much did you
Mr.
say,
Green.
Jeff Hughes? 9 something?
9-3 for a debuter. I can't expose that.
I don't like that either.
I
I don't like how high any debuters coming out that hot. But I see that I said I think the takedowns are going to get more as the fight goes on. If
That's
it's
points.
takedown heavy, where all of a sudden we see 12 takedowns in this fight, 10 takedowns, that is going to be worth its value. So, and little elbows, pepper, elbows, pepper, elbows, pepper. It depends what they count as significant strikes, but it could be worth your DraftKings. But I like Green too. I think maybe you pepper both guys.
I kind of see that as well, that you can mix it up in there because...
Not together,
No,
dum-dums.
not a stack. Do not stack that card at all. But give me that underdog money. Woo! Anything left with those big boys?
No.
At 145 pounds, we have a debuting Grant Dawson against Julian Erosa, former chef, well, still a chef, I believe, Erosa, coming off of the Tough House as well. He has had a few fights in the UFC now, is 22-6, and last coming off of a loss TKO 3 months ago to Devontae Smith in there, but we've since seen Smith lose a decision and not necessarily look as good as we all thought. But Julian Erosa, even though he likes to brawl, his jiu-jitsu's good, he has a good jab, he doesn't move his head necessarily off the center line as much, and especially once he starts to get tired. He's very Josh Thompson-esque with his not as much cardio or as much movement, where he gets really beat up and worn as the fight goes on. And there's ways to beat him. Grant Dawson actually has won his Contender Series fight being 12-2. He won via submission, rear naked choke, but had to take a break because he popped on steroids, but was recently absolved of that because they found the tainted supplement and said it wasn't his fault. He still served the time though. So
Grant Pico Dawson?
Yeah, exactly. And he likes to push you up against the fence, get you to the ground. He's definitely jiu-jitsu, I don't know his level, but in MMA, that's the avenues he likes to go. Striking-wise, he'll push you up against the fence and throw good body shots to finally get you to the ground. Grant Dawson looked really good against a Contender Series fight, but again, those are Contender Series fighters. He's fighting out of glory. The only other fighter out of there is Megan Anderson that I can think of. Who else trains with her?
Megan, because she's in the States now?
Yeah.
She went to Nebraska? I don't know, but she's big. She's a 145er.
Well, guess who she's training with? So them toes, you better watch out for that kicking to the eyeball by Dwight Dawson. Grant Dawson. Didn't we? Yeah. That name is like a lot of other fighters, yeah. Right?
I think even this fight card already we've said Grant.
Right, exactly. But where... the interesting, where here it's scary for me is Julian Erosa's chin. You don't need a necessarily good striker to hurt him, it looks like. He'll leave kicks out there sometimes a little bit loose. And or his punches, like I'm saying, and his head will be on a platter for people to throw that overhand right. Dawson can get there. On the ground, though, I do think that Erosa is super sneaky off of his back. We've seen a lot of people be able to stifle that, and Dawson will probably be able to do that as well. I see this being pretty close. I know they have it a lot more at minus 185 for Dawson, but I have thought of shooting and taking Erosa. The biggest reason I'm not picking Erosa is because he's still a full-time chef. And I've learned, I feel like one of my rules is, if you got even a part-time job that's not coaching fighting, you're not UFC caliber.
You can't.
You got a different career. So by that, I'm going to go with Dawson, but I don't like the odds. I think it's a little too steamed. Dawson's debuting in here against an actual veteran, so you got to give it a little credit. I'm going to pick Dawson. I'm still tentative on this one. I don't think I exposed myself too much to it. How do you feel about it?
A veteran that you get knocked out in one fight, I feel like you're same. 1. 2, Grant Dawson has the LaTB haircut, so that's a plus. 3, Julian Erosa got knocked out his last fight and now is trying to make an extra cut down to 145, which you said he's already chinny. He's going to be even more chinny. He's got that Dillashaw chin now. He's trying to go too low. Try to go too low. Because if you could fight at 145 or 145, you would have fought there before. You wouldn't have gone in at 155. I just got Dawson here. I think he can submit Erosa, but after he hurts him. And I think he can do it by round 2. I'm not going to go so heavy because I like to stick with what I know. And I don't know Grant Dawson yet that well. I do feel like I know Erosa a little better, but not all that much. Just a tiny bit better. Like we went on one more date. So I'm going to get Dawson, decision, round 2.
For the debuter, we have 8,700 against Erosa's 7,500. That's pretty steep for Dawson. I feel like he has to pretty much get a finish in order to cover that, and I don't see that necessarily happening.
I kind of do, but I would be more likely to take your advice on that because I don't like guys I don't know that well yet. All my cards, but maybe depending on, and if he's the favorite, not worth the parlay ad. So yeah, agree. I probably won't have him anywhere.
That's, limited, if anywhere at all. Totally agree with that. Then we move on to the 35ers where we have Yana Kunitskaya versus Marion Renault. The 41-year-old 9-4-1 fighter is coming off of a loss to Kat Zingano, unanimous decision, over 7 months ago. I could be wrong here, but I feel like Renault is even popped for steroids at a point in time. The 41-year-old fighting out of Team Rhino Elite. She's...
Drag Marion Renault through the mud. Everyone.
No, I feel like I'm on that one. She definitely is a jiu-jitsu artist. Claims that she's doing it all natural at 41 years old, and she's just using good technique to finally get her there. Kunitskaya is 11-4. She came in and had to take a brutal beating against, who was it? Cyborg. Then ended up actually winning her second fight in there against Lena Landsberg in a decision. Kunitskaya likes to keep it standing, has a pretty good sprawl, and Renault has to get this to the ground in order to be able to use what she wants, because Renault's striking isn't good at all. It's 1 and 2 strikes, they're really long, and she really leads with her head forward, where Kunitskaya will be a much better counter striker and end up Kunitskaya will end up sprawling, brawling, keeping it where she wants it, and picking her apart on the ground at all. If Kunitskaya wants to play on the ground at all, she can get submitted from Renault, but the 41 years old, the way that she was beat by Zingano, who just showed, hey, if I can keep this standing, I can win. I feel like Kunitskaya can easily mimic that, and I feel like Marion Renault is probably towards the way end of her UFC career at 41 years old. Give me Kunitskaya, decision. I'm going to end up staying away from this. I just don't see either fighter scoring a lot of points. Who do you have in this fight and why?
I think it goes the complete other way. Kunitskaya is not near on Marion Renault's level and doesn't have the experience at all. She got handed her ass to her by Chris Cyborg and then beating Lena Landsberg, who probably shouldn't be in the UFC. If she was in a hotter division, she wouldn't be in the UFC. Marion Renault actually knows what she's doing a little bit. I think Kat Zingano is a lot more dangerous than people give her credit for, and that it's a shame that the fight with Megan Anderson didn't go down the way that it should have, because I think Kat would have gotten Megan down and held her down too. I think very similar to the way that, and I like Megan Anderson a lot. I just think Megan Anderson doesn't have the ground game yet, and not that she will, and not that she won't be amazing one day, because I really dig her. I just think Kat has that. She has good wrestling, so to use it in reverse against Marion Renault to stay off the ground was easy for her. Whereas Kunitskaya, I don't think she has that wrestling background. I don't think she has anything what Marion Renault can do, and I think it's going to be surprising to a lot of people. I think the odds are off here. I don't see this being heavy scoring, but I do see Renault submitting Kunitskaya by the third round.
Interesting. Wow.
I don't like Kunitskaya, really. I think she's more there. I'll leave it at that.
She was a victim for Cyborg. She was the only woman willing to take it, but then she was able to beat Landsberg, who is also iffy but I think Renault's iffy as far as UFC caliber as well.
I just think I think Kat beats every single woman that Kunitskaya is, well, it's not Cyborg. Who knows with Cyborg? I don't even know. I don't even know, because if you play MMA math with that fight, the same person who murked Cyborg, Kat won.
Right.
So, I don't know. There's two women that have been able to take Amanda Nunes punches, and their names are Kat Zingano and the Bullet Shevchenko. So, anyway, I could bring up the Bullet. I had to play
I love
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Have you seen a lot of her local or her last media push she's been doing? She was doing some good pinup photos as of late. It's been looking good.
She is. I think she definitely has a stylist, and everything has taken a step up with her.
Definitely has.
And her sister has a fight coming up against Moicano. No. That's so funny. Montano.
No. Roxanne
the school
Modafferi.
teacher. Yeah.
Roxanne Modafferi.
Roxanne Modafferi. It should have been Montano. That's a better fight.
Way better fight. But Montano ain't taking that fight.
I think Shevchenko's sister, that ain't a good fight for her yet, Montano.
Yeah, I'd agree, but still, Montano ain't going to take that fight.
She's staying far away from the Bullet. She's
that
still far away. She's never going near there.
Name. Kunitskaya is going to end up costing you $8,900 against Renault's $7,300. Stay away from Kunitskaya.
But you don't think that's a dog, maybe?
Yeah,
because
as far
you don't
as
see Renault getting finished.
As far as DraftKings, not betting-wise, definitely there's more of a play on Renault there, DraftKings-wise. Kunitskaya, no way. No way Kunitskaya is worth that much.
I feel like we could see Marion Renault have that Misha Tate moment after she beat Holly Holmes, where she runs around and she's so excited, and maybe even lay down her gloves. I think she could go out on a win.
I don't think you're wrong on that at all.
But in this division, I don't think she needs to leave yet. She's not taking the head trauma. She still is a great gatekeeper for the 135 division. Anyway.
Moving on to the 170-pounders, where we have Anthony Rocco Martin versus Sergio Moraes. Moraes coming in 14-3, had a 2-fight winning streak in the UFC, only losing to Kamaru Usman via TKO. He Granbied a standing Granby TKO. We haven't ever seen anything like it. It's going to be on his highlights forever. But Moraes definitely tends to be the jiu-jitsu guy in there. Beating Tim Means in a split decision. Also beating Ben Saunders in a submission. I honestly want to say both of those guys on the tail end of their careers. Not looking up and coming. It's definitely a much different stylistic matchup than Rocco Martin, who's moved up from 155 pounds, was killing himself. 15-4 is on a 3-fight winning streak since he's moved up and changed his name from Tony to Anthony. Or what's he now? Is he Tony Rock? Now he's Rocco Martin. He changed his name like 3 million times, but uses his wrestling and actually striking wise isn't bad at all as well. But he's using his MMA wrestling better than he ever has before. Is really using his ground and pound on top to get guys where he wants them and is able to finish them. Gas tank went through the roof, and so is his chin, because his gas tank was a little weak at 55, and so was his chin, but rightfully so when he, at 70, is humongous. It's unbelievable this guy made it to 55. But Martin has really been coming into his own since he moved to 70 at 29 years old. On the ground, Marias' path to victory is taking down Tony Martin and submitting him. But as the same as Renault, Marias on the ground is deadly, but he can't get you there. Especially with Anthony Martin's wrestling credentials. I don't see Marias at all getting him there. I think it's a lot of repeat of what Kamaru did. Keep this fight where Marias doesn't want to, and that's in his weak striking. And it's not that it's not powerful. It's just that Marias loads up on his punches and throws 1 and 2 heavy punches together. Good striker will exploit that. And especially once Marias starts to slow down, those punches get even more looping. So I actually have Tony Martin winning via TKO round number 3. I think Gas Tank is involved. I have Martin winning everywhere other than the specific jiu-jitsu game, but I don't think it even gets there. I think Martin keeps it where he wants it. I got the heavy favorite for a reason. I like Rocco everywhere. Who do you have in this fight?
Anthony Rocco Martin as well. I think he ekes out a decision. I think it's going to be a slow grind by the end, and I hope he really stays away and remembers to play that game plan with Sergio Moraes and not to try to think that he's going to out jiu-jitsu him. And as long as he does that, I think Anthony Rocco keeps crawling up this division. I really like him everywhere. It's very rarely the UFC makes perfectly matched, like, oh, this is the right number, fighting the right number. And the 24th guy versus the 26th guy, I like that everywhere, and I think Martin is the heavy favorite for a reason. I just think he's a guy that has an upward trajectory.
Totally agreed. If you haven't liked and subscribed, remember to follow us at LaTB on Instagram, at LaTB. You can always find The Bean at Zoltanite.
No, at Lesbo and the Bean on Instagram.
At Lesbo the Bean on Instagram. At Weekneck Baby for Lesbo. Remember to hit us up as the week goes on. We're going to be covering weigh-ins. We still got Kansas City. I mean, have we gone there before? How are the judges? I can't remember the last time we went to Kansas City.
Good old-fashioned American judges. Corn-fed, no salad, loves beef. That's what I think.
That's what they're going to be selling?
Yeah, and I think we're playing by the new rules. Which, can we stop saying that? Can the rules just be the rules? I hate every state we have to go. We're playing by the 2016 rules. Damn, homie, we almost in 2020. Like, it's time to adjust. It's time to change. So, I got faith in Kansas.
Me, I do as well. Rocco Martin.
And we're not high. We don't have to worry about any of that. High and elevation.
Ooh, because you know how we do. Rocco Martin is going to be pretty high on DraftKings at 9,200 against 7,000 for Marias. I see a finish, so I still like Rocco Martin, but I only think I'm going to expose at 9,000. It's iffy. I'm going to probably put him on like 60, 70% of my cards as well. Not blanketed everywhere.
I'm going to go with like 40.
Also on Martin's side. So the main card opens up with about at 185 pounds, where we have Omari Akhmedov versus Tim the Barbarian Bosch. The 21-12 fighter. Bosch is coming off of a loss to Carlos Cara de Zapato Jr. 10 months ago. Submission. Prior to that, he beat Johnny Hendricks. Prior to that, Bosch has losses to, who is it, Hector Lombard in there, Souza. But he's also got some comeback wins over Okami. Barbarian is just one of these guys. He's popped a few times on steroids. I know that for a fact.
He's got less than an Artem Lobov record. 21-12.
That's a good point. 500 fighter. Tim Bosch, though.
That means he's always exciting to watch in there, and he goes out swinging.
100%.
If you want to keep your job in the UFC, regardless of losses, that's what to do.
That's what you got to do, is be able to just, even when you're dog tired, be able to throw an uppercut, send a man's head into the top row. And Tim Bosch tends to try to do that. He swings hard, swings heavy, came up as a wrestler, has a great sprawl. On the ground can be exploited, but you really need a great wrestler to really get him there. Striking wise, more of the looping puncher, weighs in with his punches, and again gasses. Akhmedov is 17-4. He just came off of a suspension as well. Or did he? Majority decision. I think he popped for, I can't remember what. This is a steroids bout. Kansas City's like, come on, everybody. Everybody's done steroids. Come on down.
We must be fighting on a reservation in Kansas. No, is it in Kansas City too?
I don't know the exact city.
Kansas.
Somewhere Kansas, in beautiful Kansas. But the Russian fighter definitely keeps you at bay with a lot of that spinning. He has those looping punches, but they're more Russian-y looping punches. I don't know what that means, but there's a difference.
They're communists.
They are communist. They duck their head a little bit more, I think.
I don't even know. That's old school. Communist Russia.
But Akhmedov has more tools because on the ground he is way more serviceable, and his gas tank is showed out better than Tim Boesch is in there. The Russian fighter's chin is held up as well. I think that this turns into a really slow-paced fight by the time we get into the third round, and I think that the Russian fighter ekes out more of a point fight than anything. I think Tim Boesch's power scares the Russian early on in this fight, and it turns into a decision. I'm not going to be playing this heavy everywhere. I kind of see this staying away. I'm siding with the slight favorite here, and I'm just probably fading the 38-year-old Tim Boesch from his last performances. Who do you have in this fight?
The last thing to leave is power. And I'm going with Tim Boesch. I think the number is off here. Akhmedov, if someone presses forward and swings away, he's going to get knocked out. Boesch uses his wrestling in reverse and doesn't get taken down if he doesn't want to. I think a lot of the Russian fighters are overrated because of Khabib, especially coming out of Dagestan. If people just see that name, it's like a family name now. Dagestani fighter? Oh, put it down. People are doing that like I feel about a Polish fighter, I guess. So it's kind of the same thing. I just think Boesch is an old veteran in there. You're not going to get him with any kind of crazy tricks. He's going to keep up a heavy pace until like the last round for a bigger guy. Akhmedov, I think he used to get knocked out at like 155. I think he's really moved up in weight a ton here. And maybe the other guys he's gone up against like Vettori and Noki and Al Hassan, they're not nearly Boesch. Like Boesch is a bigger, more, yeah, he's battle worn. Yeah, he's lost. I just don't think Akhmedov's going to do that. I think Boesch KO round 2. I am not going to play it too heavy, but I'll have it probably on 30% of my cards.
Interesting. I like what you're saying because Akhmedov has had a bit more of a substitute chin out of both fighters, but I guess where did I want to go with this? I had a bad joke on the way and it totally left my it got out of there at the last second.
Wasn't meant to be, or if you remember it later.
I'm gonna have to squeeze it in there. With damn it. It's gone. I'm looking up the lines. I gotta just look up the lines and get over that one. On DraftKings, you're gonna have to end up paying $8,500 for Akhmedov against Tim Boesch's $7,600. What I wanted to say was the 31-year-old Russian is probably more like 38 goddamn years old as well. We know how those Russian and Cuban passports are not what they say.
Or he could be 12.
I'm going to guess he's probably like 36, 37, so I shouldn't be playing Tim Boesch's age so much into it in there. For $7,700, do you think you're going to play Boesch in a lot of spots there?
Only on like 30%.
I agree with that. I don't think I'm going to play Akhmedov in many spots here either.
No, I see Boesch being a higher scorer than Akhmedov because Medov's path to victory to me is a split decision when that's a grind out wrestling battle that then people boo at the end or something.
That's what I kind of see happening as well. So, more of a coin flip than people think. Moving on to the 55ers though, we had Beneil Dariush coming in against Drew Dober. Dober coming in with a 20-8 record, tenured fighter, coming off a 3-fight winning streak, beating Frank Camacho, only losing of late to Alban Mercier in a submission rear naked choke, but his last win being over John Tuck in a decision. Drew Dober is one of these guys that unbelievably makes 155 pounds. Thick as thick can be. Some of the biggest legs you're ever going to see in there. Dober is just a Muay Thai striker. Want to say he's a wrestler, but he really isn't a wrestler. He doesn't shoot too many takedowns. His sprawls are good, but he can be taken down. Not tons of power either for Drew Dober. We've seen him in there many a times. He's more of a point fighter who uses his wrestling in reverse to keep it a point fighting game. And Beneil Dariush, being 15-4, has fought as long as Drew Dober, but a much higher caliber of competition. So he has been finished more, but it's been by elite fighters where Drew Dober's winning split decision fights in there against lower caliber guys. I do definitely think this is the biggest step up Drew Dober's taken, especially now that we're seeing OEM not look as good as he once did. Beneil Dariush on the ground is the black belt champion, striking really, really good. He likes to throw that jab right into a takedown where Edson Barbosa finally caught him with that knee. But the more paths to victory, by far Beneil Dariush has. Even striking-wise, Beneil, tons more power. It's just that chin. Beneil's chin has tested in a lot of his fights, and he's at a great camp at King's MMA. They've been notorious for training hard. I don't know if they got away from it. The last fight that Dariush had over Thiago Moises in a decision was a way closer fight than it ever should have been, and I didn't like what I saw from Beneil Dariush. I feel like he's starting to be one of these Bobby Green, Jorge Masvidal type of fighters where he fights to the level of his opponent. So if he's fighting one of the top three, he'll make it a dogfight in the top three, and he'll even lose knockout. But if he's fighting a top 50, he'll fight to the level of a top 50 and get in a closer fight than he needs to be. If he just tried to go to the ground and to use his D1 wrestling to get it there, which he doesn't as much, he has a clear path to victory. I got Dariush's decision. See this being a dirty split. I think Drew Dober can turn this into a grind. The gas tanks are fairly even here. I just don't like what I've seen as of late from Dariush, even coming off a win. And Drew Dober gets dirty splits. This is a stay away.
Has Drew Dober of recent moved to Elevation Fight Team?
I think he's been there for a while.
A long time?
Yep. Who else is there? Other big guy. There's a couple guys. Freaking Blades. Curtis Blades Elevation as well. A few other ones. So, okay, talent. I
actually have Drew Dober here, and I do think he has a little bit of power, and maybe he doesn't. He's only knocking out chinny guys. And when I think of chinny guys and I shut my eyes, one of them is Beneil Dariush that I think of. So I do think Drew Dober can get it done and knock out Beneil by round 3. I kind of feel confident about this. And I don't know, this is not a hype train on Drew Dober as much as it's just a fade on what's going on with Dariush's chin. Maybe he just took too much damage, and once the damage is done, it's done. Unless it's a like move up or move out kind of thing. I think that's really the only way you see guys change that chin, and I don't think Beneil's moving up. I think his wrestling sometimes, this is kind of what we see with heavy wrestlers. They can make the weight, whether or not it's necessarily a good thing for their bodies or chins. So, yeah, Drew Dober, KO, round 3.
That is minus 185 for the favorite Beneil Dariush against the plus 145 Drew Dober. On DraftKings, you're paying $9,000 even for Dariush against Drew Dober's $7,200. I'm not going to play Dariush there for $9,000. I'm not confident enough in that, even though I have him winning. We both have decision. We both have kind of a split. So maybe that's where it ends up lying overall, which means DraftKings-wise, Dariush is not worth $9,000 in a split. Dober, a lot more playable there.
Gosh, I even feel like even if you're right on Dariush with the win, he's not worth $9,000.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You can't play Dariush there for $9,000. So on to the heavyweights. We have Ben Rothwell versus Bagoy Ivanov. 16-2. Ivanov came in with a padded record. Ended up losing his debut against Junior Dos Santos over 7 months ago in a decision in there. The Bulgarian fighter has all sorts of credentials. The 32-year-old Ivanov was a striker and all these other organizations. But as you were saying before with these Russian guys, Khabib's credit rubs off on a lot of these guys. And everyone's like, Ivanov's going to do all this great stuff. Well, Dos Santos is definitely a top contender in there, and it was a humongous step up in there. The fact that he went to decision with him is pretty telling, but Ivanov looked like he gassed. He had some major back surgeries before that fight, and really just held on to a loss with trying not to get knocked out in there. And he didn't look as invincible as a lot of people had him in his debut. Rothwell, notorious steroid user as well. He popped back in the day, coming off of a loss with a 36-10 record, losing to Junior Dos Santos as well.
He popped? That's where he's been? I was just going to ask.
Yeah, he popped. I think like this might be his second time popping.
Well, that body, it's evident.
But Rothwell in here likes to use his wrestling and striking to keep it where he wants to. He got upset by Albinian a while ago, but got a 4-fight winning streak and only lost to, again, high-level competition in there. I just see the forward movement. After the first round, I see all the forward movement going one way, and that's going to be Rothwell. Rothwell's chin is held out, and he has a very herky-jerky Keith Jardine type of style in there where he just will eat a couple punches to get you to the fence and wear you out.
He looks a little Tyson Fury in there, huh?
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Tough as nails, but I have the wrestling taken over and the gas tank taken over here. I got Rothwell decision, but I see this being a super boring lay-in, pray. Both fighters are just going to be sucking the air down, but I do see Rothwell winning this. Who do you have in this fight?
Rothwell should win everywhere, and I like to stick with what I know, but Ben Rothwell's been gone so long, I don't know him anymore. And so he'd only have to be in the USADA pool for the 6 months now that we know. He is allowed to fight again. He may pop after this, which may help. He was on a long win streak and only lost to Junior Dos Santos, who has, like, would you say equally as good hands as wrestling?
Yeah.
He's a pretty
he's up there.
solid
He's
guy.
Top 5 guy.
I'm going to go with the Ivanov decision. I don't know if I don't see either guy getting finished here unless... Is Ivanov wrestling heavy, did you say? You said he...
I feel like it's more sambo-ish.
Well, he's Bulgarian,
yeah.
right? He's not Russian.
No, he's Bulgarian.
Bulgarian. And, but he has that Russian style where it's just...
looping overhand punches. Looping punches.
If Ivanov isn't of danger of getting submitted, I'm just going to have him by decision. I like Big Ben here. Let him just get let him get a fight under his belt, and then we'll go from there.
Agreed. The 37-year-old, even though a heavyweight, they do tend to have a little bit more life.
Yeah, that's young. That heavyweight, right? 37, you're in your prime.
That's what I was about to say. Definitely in your prime.
I just want him to get one fight. I think ring rust is really... I think it is real, especially at this level. But god dang, the guy is just so experienced that you got to think he knows training camps a little better.
On DraftKings, you're going to pay $8,400 for Ivanov against $7,800 for Rothwell. I'm going to be putting Rothwell on this.
I agree with you. I think he's the better pick on DraftKings.
Definitely.
I'm going to change to Big Ben.
Switching live on air.
Switching.
That's actually the underdog. They're both minus money.
Ring rust is real, but at 265, how much speed are you going to lose?
Yeah, what are you really going to do there? Yeah. Minus 105 for the underdog Rothwell against minus 125 for Ivanov. Lesbo's going with a ton of underdogs tonight, huh?
I know.
Money to be made.
It's been a while since we've been this disagreed on
so many cards.
Which makes me nervous.
Woo! I got a couple unders in there as well. Some big ones.
I know.
Big ones.
We're both like all over the place.
All over
We're Grandpa's eyebrows in this.
At 170 pounds, we have Nico Price coming in against the Dirty Bird himself, Tim Means, 28-10. Means is coming off of a win as of late 3 months ago to Rick Rainey. But prior to that, he had 2 losses, devastatingly to Belio Muhammad in a split and a split decision to Sergio Moraes. Dirty Bird Means is crafty in there, likes to use his Muay Thai and elbows to pick you apart, throws a mean teep kick to the body, hurts a lot of guys in there, and on the ground is serviceable, but doesn't really use it. He'll submit you up if he needs to. Got good darces in there, but really Tim Means wants to get back to his feet and keep his striking going where he feels most comfortable. Against Nico Price, that's not hard to do. Nico Price coming off of a loss, 12-2. His only losses coming in the UFC. The top team fighter is 29 years old, losing as of late to Razak Al-Hassan. But he has wins over Randy Brown, who he knocked out off of his back, George Sylvain. He lost to Vicente Luque in there, but that was also a brutal knockout. Nico Price in there leaves his head on a platter to be hit. He doesn't move his head, likes to eat a punch to be able to get you to the ground, but there's many times in there I've seen Nico Price, especially with Al-Hassan, where we knew if Nico Price goes to the ground at all with this guy, he wins his fight. He's way better on the ground. It's just Nico Price likes to swing in there. He likes to get crazy, and eating a shot from some of these guys like Al-Khazan or Means will put you out. Nico Price is better fighter, is a younger fighter, not necessarily a better fighter. That fight IQ is definitely where it evens out here. This is a really, really close fight. I know Means is a big favorite here, and it's because that fight IQ, especially off that brutal knockout. I see where a lot of people are going with this because Tim Means has a way higher strike accuracy rate as well. And if Nico decides to stay anywhere with this, he's going to probably get finished. But on the grounds, Mean could get submitted. I don't like what I'm doing here. I got Nico Price decision. I could switch with that. I got to wait. Was it 3 months ago that he got brutally knocked out? 5 months ago. 5 months ago. I like that. The path to victory is Nico Price getting it to the ground, but I can't trust if he does that. I have the underdog here in a decision, if not submission, round number 2 or 3 for Price, but I also see him being able to be finished because he decides to keep it standing. And the Dirty Bird, put your lights out. Who do you have in this fight? Give me the underdog.
I don't think the Dirty Bird puts your lights out at all anymore. I think the Dirty Bird's only in there cashing a check. I know they're all in there cashing a check, but we said Dirty Bird has financial trouble. It's been a ready thing. He doesn't have the same heart in there that he used to. It was Ricky Rainey. Nico Price he's beat people standing as well as off his back. He's dangerous in the ground game, and he's got to be working on the leaving your head on a platter part. I think the Dirty Bird is kind of not mentally in there anymore, and Nico Price is still one to watch. He's doing American Top Team stuff. I think he can even catch Tim Means with a nasty little body kick and put it out because Tim Means got that soft body. He got that Matt Brown.
Great point.
So I don't think you're off at all, and I'm surprised that Tim Means isn't the underdog. Nico Price by decision. You want a king of a dirty split? Tim Means is about to lose by another dirty split.
Wow. I really thought I was going to be the contrarian there, and I'm surprised though as well that the Dirty Bird's this big of a favorite.
He should never be again. There's really no one he's going to be going up against that he should be this big of a favorite again if they're UFC caliber.
Yeah, as you're saying, Rainey has been punchy for a while before he got into the UFC. 8,800 for the Dirty Bird against 7,400 for Nico Price. You better believe I'll be putting Nico Price all over the place.
The Leslie Smith underdog of whether we're going to do it anymore and everything has been Twitter talk. And I feel like Nico Price has been our Leslie Smith underdog two times before.
Yeah, and he's come through before as that underdog. So
it's just an underdog we agreed on. I don't know if we agreed on any other ones tonight.
I totally agree with that. And this is one of those that we both agree on as an underdog.
Even though you're a little more nervous.
Definitely. I have been brain farting it up today. Nico Price usually does better when he's the underdog.
I think so too.
When he's the favorite, he usually is like, oh, really? He just let me down. So I think he tends to shine a little bit more there. Staying in 170 pounds, we have another profile fight with Elizu Zaleski versus Curtis Millender. Zaleski, 20-5, had multiple fights in the UFC on a big winning streak. Is it 5 or 6 in a row now? But most of those have been fairly dominant with a couple of split decisions and then some of the highest profile knockouts against Sean Strickland, my boy, in there. And Vindamari as well as of late, but that was a short notice replacement. Curtis Millender, 17-3, who has gotten 2 wins in a row, just came in the UFC, or has 3 fights in a row wins in the UFC. I thought he had a fight on the contender series, but he didn't. He was the LFA champ beforehand. He beat Thiago Alves. Then he ended up beating Max Griffin, which Zaleski did as well via decision. And he last beat Badr Zari in a decision. And a fight of the year contender is, well, I don't know about fight of the year necessarily, but just blood and guts fight of the year, where Badr Zari was hurt as much as anyone was hurt in there and was able to keep pushing forward. Where we saw a lot of good stuff in there for Millender is even though he was gassed, he really had his head about him and was technically fighting off the takedown still, even though his gas tank was failing him, and throwing crisp, clean shots without too much telegraphing in there. And he's going to need that against Zaleski because, like Badr Zari, Zaleski moves forward with tons of power. On the ground will rip you apart as well. But can leave his head to be there, hit as much as Badr Zari. Zaleski's chin's held out so far. He's a little craftier, though, where he'll throw some of these spinning kicks, Muay Thai kicks in there, and it looks like he has a bit more power than Badr Zari. But this is as coin flip gets. This is a must-watch fight, profile fight of the night. I mean, I could wake up tomorrow and be on the other guy. I feel like the guy I know a little bit better is Zaleski, but Curtis has had decisions and wins in there that have showed us a lot of really good stuff in there as well. The fight IQ, I do give a check to Millender over Zaleski. He's more of like, I don't give a damn. I'll throw the kitchen sink at you because you probably won't take it, and then more survive that decision if by winning the first 2 rounds, where Grant can kind of snipe you in that 3rd round if he needs to. I got the Zaleski decision right now. It's a coin flip. I'm not confident either way. I got to wait till weigh-ins, but this is a fun one. Must watch. Who do you have in this fight?
I think Zaleski is by far the best person Curtis Millender has ever gone against, and I think even their rankings are off. Zaleski should be ranked over Millender. Both guys are in their prime. I do think this is going to be a great fight. I see, like on Tapology, everybody has Curtis Millender, and they just see him really
winning a decision.
Eking out the decision. I just think Zaleski is on a mad tear right now, and he's put together more than just that decision. He's put together something else about his game to really hurt you in the first few rounds and then actually finish the fight in a way that I don't think Curtis has. They're so similar everywhere, except I think Zaleski has just added the right combination, like figured out how to hit the home runs, like become a power puncher. Something else has happened to his game. I think Zaleski has the decision here. I think Tapology is a little off. I think it being near even is a good thing. I just think Zaleski his name's just not as big of a deal because he wasn't a champion yet, or his name's a big deal in the UFC to hardcores, but not really to the worldwide scene. I think he's being looked over right here, and I think that's dangerous. Zaleski decision.
8,200 for Millender against Zaleski's 8,000. I think I'm going to be siding with Zaleski as far as DraftKings wise. Maybe hedge your bets and put either fighter, because
I don't see it being like a murky in either way.
Yeah, agreed. But either one could do it to each other as well, is why I'm like, ooh, it's fun. It's such a fun fight. Such a profile fight. I feel like it could have headlined, but I'm a hardcore. You know, I like to watch these things. I feel like the main event is headlined by the big boys for a reason, because everyone can see him walking down the street at 265 pounds. We have Derrick Lewis coming in against Junior Dos Santos. Derrick Lewis coming off of a title bout against Daniel Cormier, losing it. The 21-6 fighter had quite a career in the UFC, being one of the highest knockout percentages guys in there, but definitely one of the most one-dimensional fighters we have in there. Derrick Lewis is sprawl and brawl, hit you with that right. We ain't got to break down his stat. We don't got to get crazy with Derrick Lewis. He's going to eat a full meal half an hour before the main event, and then he's going in there, do work. Hopefully he don't doo-doo in his pants. Hopefully he keeps all his clothes on.
When you said go in there, do work, I thought you were talking about the bathroom, and then he was going to go fight.
That's probably what he doesn't talk about. Well, he does talk about it because, you know, it's social media, how we like to do Derrick Lewis. One of the highest hitters when it comes to that Instagram game. But against Dos Santos, perennial top 5 guy, 20-5 fighter. He's been in the UFC since he was a young man, coming off of a 2-fight win, last beating Tai Tuivasa, piecing him apart in there, showing why Dos Santos has some of the crispest boxing at any division in there. I mean, piston of a right hand, throws it really well, great wrestling, great ground game, but Dos Santos really likes to keep it standing, which is the only way Derrick Lewis wins this fight, with that overhand right. Exact same way he beat Volkanovski, where Derrick Lewis does not matter if it's 5 rounds or not. He has that power, and he throws all of his weight into it. He'll eat 3 leg kicks and 3 punches to be able to land that right. He has enough power to put you out. Junior Dos Santos can be finished as well. So, as far as heavyweights, every single heavyweight can put you out, but Derrick Lewis has a bit more. Like, every heavyweight, right, can knock you out. Derrick Lewis just seems like
most MMA fighters could knock you out.
Sure, but Derrick Lewis just has that, like, night-night power where you just see guys go dead.
Up every second of the whole fight.
Exactly.
He only has to hit you once. Moniker should be Derrick Lewis.
That should be his nickname.
Literally, he only has to hit you once.
The one punch. But as far as
that noise, I can't
the gorilla
even mimic
beat.
it. Yeah.
But Dos Santos here should be not even a heavy favorite on paper. Yes, but I don't think anyone can ever be a heavy favorite other than a wrestling game set, which Dos Santos doesn't do too well. Cormier, yeah, big favorite. Dos Santos, he's a 2-1 here, and I could see it being more like a -140 just because that power does stifle. It really slows down a lot of heavyweight fighters, and you'll see it. People get hit by Derrick Lewis, and they're like, oh shit, I'm going to slow down before I go back in there. Ask Ngannou. Ask anyone else who feels that hand fly through the air. They're like, oh shit, this dude hits hard. I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to chill out. And end up picking this apart. I feel like it happens a lot what Mark Hunt did to Derrick Lewis in the last 5-round fight, where Mark Hunt just stays away, picks apart that leg, and beats him down. Dos Santos has a great leg kick as well, and I feel like this probably finishes in the 4th and 5th round because Derrick Lewis, he won't get knocked out, but he'll tap the mat. He'll just say, I'm good. He's done it before, has those back issues. Give me Dos Santos, the big favorite. I just fade in Lewis.
Old school Derrick Lewis, it's not even fair to compare him to that. He's lost so much weight. His cardio is so much better. He's got a training match with Daniel Cormier where he went, he got, what round did he get submitted by Cormier?
It was either 3 or 4.
Yeah, but he made it a good amount of time for his first 5-round fight.
No, he went 5 rounds with Mark Hunt in New Zealand. And lost.
Okay. And that was that was like fat Derrick Lewis. That was a different Derrick Lewis.
That's Derrick Lewis. That ain't fat. That's him. Just
He's a different dude. I think his body looks so much better now than that old, something happened in him where he takes fighting a little more seriously. He only has to hit you once. He will hit Dos Santos once. I don't know. I know Junior is on this 2-fight win streak, and I know he just KO'd Ty. I kind of feel like I'm a Junior Dos Santos hater, so take it for what it's worth, but I'm going to go Derrick Lewis. He's not going to win by decision, so I have to move it up to a knockout, but I think it's just going to happen maybe around 3. The normal idea that Dos Santos has, and Dos Santos is a huge muscular built guy, but the idea that he has of normally where maybe I can tire these guys out and they lose a little bit of their power and then I can get in there and be a little safer. Like you're saying, you can't be safe ever with Derrick Lewis. I think Lewis can catch him once. I'm going to go with round 4, knockout. I don't know how heavy I feel about it. I don't know how heavy I feel about anything on this card.
I totally agree. For the heavy favorite, Dos Santos is 9,400 on DraftKings against Derrick Lewis is 6,800. And I think Derrick Lewis is, if you need options other than Nico Price to open up the ranks, Derrick Lewis can get that knockout as well. I think you can put either fighter. Don't stack them either because Derrick Lewis doesn't throw that output, but he's got that one-hit quitter type of power.
He does have that one-hit quitter. Yeah, so if you're not liking and subscribing and telling friends, then what the hell are you doing?
Let's go the bean!
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.